So tonight, I'm going to be talking about meal prep, high raw vegan meal prep, how to make it easier, how to be more consistent with it, some of the things that I eat, recipes, things like that. Gee, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in. Nurse Lexi, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Doug, my brother, what's going on? Good evening. Good to see you tuning in. All right. Stephanie, hello, welcome. Justine, hello. Good to see y'all tuning in. But where y'all tuning in from? City, state, country, all of that. We're going to get into the stuff that people want to talk about the most. Meal prep, meal planning. What do I eat? What do I eat and for what? So I'm going to be talking about a lot of that tonight. Waukesha, Texas. Big shout out to Waukesha. Chattanooga, Tennessee. What's going on? Welcome. Heavy with the indigenous names tonight. Miami, Florida. What's going on? Welcome. Will this be recorded? Yes. By the way, before I get started, I have edited and uploaded Tuesday night's live stream, and that'll be premiering tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern. But to those of you who signed up for the email list to join my newsletter, you'll be getting those live stream replays in your email. So you'll be able to get it straight to your email and whatever content also that I upload. So you'll be getting that straight to your inbox. So in case the platform does not notify you of my live streams or anything like that, or my replays, you'll be getting that directly into your inbox. For those of you who are not currently signed up for the newsletter, you can go to my profile, hit the link in my bio, and subscribe to the newsletter. So I'll be putting a lot of good stuff in there. The first newsletter of the week goes up tomorrow. So I'm going to be sending that out. So pretty much the live stream I did on Tuesday, I'm going to be sending that video out in an email with some additional information that you may find helpful. And then this stream will be the next one that goes out in the next email letter. So that's pretty much how I'm doing that. So yeah, y'all be able to have these and be able to rewatch them. Edmonton, Alberta, what's going on? Welcome. Cape Cod. Big shout out to you tuning in from Cape Cod. GG, thank you for the gift. Appreciate you. Coming through with the love on the stream. Much appreciated. Came through with the weights and the joy and the enjoy music. All right. We like to enjoy music. You know what I'm saying? We got the chill background music here live on the stream. What's the benefit of taking supplements and magnesium? Well, it's a good way to help mineralize your body and reverse chronic illness. Is this good for cancer? Absolutely. And then, I'll briefly explain why. Chicago, what's going on? Big shout out to you tuning in from Chicago. Good evening, sir. I really need a plan to combat my kidney disease. Can you help? Yes, I absolutely can. Kidney disease ain't nothing to play with. So if you're going to take action on that, you want to get on a plan, I would say to do that ASAP. So you basically what I want you to do is first book a call with me. You could do that hitting the link in my bio as well, and you can put yourself on my schedule, and we'll have a full 60 minutes to talk about everything involving kidney disease and any other issues you're going through, and how to address those. And if you feel as though the having your own personal plan and coaching support is the right fit for you, then we can move forward with that as well. All right. It's a paper newsletter? No, it's an email. You get it through email. Good evening, sir. Oh, okay. I read that already. Yes, the newsletter is free. Being vegan, is it good for cancer patients? Absolutely. What is it like? Plant-based diet lowers your risk of cancer by, what was it? I think it was like a minimum of like 20%. It reduces it. I gotta look the stat up. It was a statistic that I saw a while back. Hello, Remsen Agnes. What's going on? Good to see you back in the stream here. Buford, what's going on? Thank you for the heart me. Appreciate you. And I definitely didn't forget too about talking about the hypothyroid and the Hashimoto's thing. So I'm going to talk about that as well. Is milk thistle good for liver? Absolutely. It definitely helps. All right, well let me get started, right? Meal prep. That's an important thing to talk about. Y'all ready for me to talk about meal prep? So, where do we start? You got to factor in what your meal prep is. What do you want each of your meals to do, right? How many meals you want to eat, and what should your meals do, and what your goals are, right? That's the thing that you want to think about first. Do you want to balance certain hormones? Do you want to reverse diabetes? Do you want to reverse fatty liver? Do you want to lose a tremendous amount of weight? What's the goal, right, behind your meal prep, behind your plan? And that matters. It's very important because that will dictate what your approach is going to be, right? Now, let's say you want to lose weight and you want to reverse diabetes. Let's go with that one, right? So at that point, essentially what you're looking at is you're looking at a carbohydrate dominant diet. You're probably doing one cooked meal, if that, or the meal is partially cooked. So maybe you only have like one type of food in that meal that's cooked, and everything else is raw. So let's say your first meal, you start off your day with something relatively low on the glycemic index. Let's say if you were to start with that, you could start with two options. You could start with just straight up fruit. Like you could start with, let's say, several cups of watermelon. It's a great way to start your morning. Something to get hydrated, right? Something that's going to lower your stress and dilate your vascular system, right? So you could do that. So you could start with about, 4 to 6 cups of watermelon. Now, watermelon is a bit high in the glycemic index, but it's low. It has a low glycemic load, which means that it may not really spike much of your blood sugar at all. But the goal is not to avoid blood sugar spikes. The goal is to reverse insulin resistance, right? So you have to make up your mind when it comes to your diabetes. Do you want to treat your diabetes or do you want to reverse it, right? Because those are kind of two different approaches. Now, when it comes to diabetes, you can front load your high points of your blood sugar. So you can front load them. So for example, if you had a chart of your blood sugar throughout the day, you can have it where it's higher earlier in the day and then it slopes down throughout the day, right? So you can have that downward trend throughout the day as far as your blood sugar is concerned. So if you're going to eat something that's going to elevate your blood sugar, you'd want to do it in the beginning of the day as opposed to the end of your day, right? Now, the thing is that if let's say you're diabetic, you've been diabetic for a really long time, you're very insulin resistant, you're on high blood pressure medication, you're on a variety of different diabetic medications, high blood pressure, maybe a beta blocker or something like that. Because often when people have diabetes, or type 2 diabetes specifically, they often have cardiovascular issues, blood pressure issues, that kind of thing. So you probably wake up first thing in the morning and your blood sugar is really high first thing in the morning, right? So at that point, the primary goal then becomes to reduce your stress in the morning. So that's when you wake up, you have the watermelon or cantaloupe or honeydew, something like that, or you have a few tangerines, that kind of thing, and really bring down your blood sugar. And so that first meal would just be the fruit to get hydrated and bring down the stress, load your body up with vitamin C, B vitamins, water, fiber, that kind of thing. Potassium to dilate your vascular system, right? So eating those water-rich foods like that, they're going to load up your body with antioxidants, vitamin C, B vitamins, potassium, water, and fiber. These things together go a long way towards dropping your stress, all right? And stress management is one of the main factors that will determine how quickly you reverse type 2 diabetes. Stress management. If you wear like a blood sugar monitor, if you were to get bad news, hypothetically, you could see your blood sugar rise in real time, right? So let's say you get really bad news, somebody's in the hospital, or you're getting a write-up at work, or some type of stressful issue. You can see your blood sugar climb in real time, right? Because blood sugar is not just affected by what you eat, it's affected by how you feel, right? So the heart's racing, that vascular constriction sets in, you feel stress, blood sugar goes up along with your blood pressure. Blood sugar and blood pressure usually rise together, right? One causes the rise of another, right? So if you start your morning off with something that's going to drive down stress, well, that sets the precedent for the rest of the day. Second meal, after that water-rich, fruit-rich meal, you would then have something that's more protein-rich. Now, this is especially a good idea if you wake up in the morning and let's say you have an herbal tea, maybe like cinnamon tea or chai tea or matcha tea or moringa tea, and you have that first thing in the morning, and then you have the fruit. Ideally, you would have the tea first because the tea will drive your stress down the quickest without raising your blood sugar. So the tea will actually lower your blood pressure and your blood sugar. Then you have the fruit. So you have antioxidants on top of antioxidants. You're well hydrated, and then you do a workout. Now, it can be resistance training, or it can be where you're walking about 3 to 5 miles. You finish walking your 3 to 5 miles. So you walk for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour, right? And then you come back, you have a high protein meal. When I say a high protein meal, I mean a meal that's like around 30 grams of protein. That's considered to be a pretty high protein meal, right? Your average woman, 40 to 60 grams of protein is enough. Your average man, 60 to 90 grams of protein is enough. So let's say you have coconut yogurt with 2 to 4 tablespoons of chia seeds or flax seeds with 8 ounces of milk, like plant-based milk, for example. You put cinnamon in there, and then you blend it up, right? And you can even put protein powder in it, like pea protein isolate in it, and you blend that up. And then you put sliced bananas in it with blueberries and strawberries, right? So you could be a cup or a half a cup of blueberries and a cup or a half a cup of strawberries with like 1 sliced banana. And you put that in the pudding that you've made. So you got the chia seeds in there. Chia seeds are loaded up with omega-3 essential fatty acids. They're loaded up with magnesium, manganese, iron, copper, potassium. Chia seeds are a big deal, okay? So chia seeds could be like a staple of your diet, right? So you have that coconut yogurt. That's going to be a great source of probiotics, which also helps to improve your gut microbiome, to improve your gut health and your digestion. So if you've been experiencing gas, bloating, constipation, things of this nature, well, that's going to be a big deal. So you get the magnesium and the potassium and the essential fatty acids from the coconut yogurt and the chia seeds, right? And then the plant-based milk. Let's say you drink soy milk that is fortified with vitamin D, right? And it's also fortified with calcium and magnesium and folate and things like that, right? And you add that into like that coconut yogurt mix. So that's just going to have even more nutrients. And then soy milk, 8 ounces of soy milk can be anywhere between 6 and 8 grams of protein, right? So you got that in there, and then with the fruit, and the fruit is loaded up with vitamin C, potassium, magnesium, copper, iron, manganese, right? These are the main ones that I named, right? These macro minerals. You're also going to be getting the trace minerals as well, right? And there's a lot of different trace minerals that we can get into. Some of the most important ones, or the most important one that I would say for reversing diabetes in that list is probably going to be chromium. Chromium is clinically proven to reverse diabetes, right? So if you supplement with something like chromium, zinc, and magnesium, right, that trifecta is going to be very good for reducing stress, reversing diabetes, as well as improving your sleep quality. This can even help to improve if you have breathing problems at night when you're sleeping, like sleep apnea or something. That's also going to be very beneficial for that. So that meal together, that could be like at least 30 grams of protein. If you add pea protein to it, that could be like a little over 50 grams, 55, maybe even 60 grams of protein, right? In that meal with that fruit. Now, bananas, you can say, well, bananas will spike my blood sugar. Yeah, but the chia seeds are a hedge against that. The cinnamon is a hedge against that. The coconut yogurt is a hedge against that. Because those things actively regulate the rate at which glucose enters your bloodstream, right? The chia seeds do this on their own, but when you combine that with cinnamon, it ramps up the effect. And then, of course, you know, with the protein and the extra fiber and whatnot from the berries, the blueberries, the strawberries, and those are low glycemic, right? So those are a hedge against any potential spike that you would get in any significant fashion from the bananas, right? So that's a good meal to have after that workout, right? Whether it be resistance training or going for a walk. So those are 2 meals out of the way. So if you wanted to do a third meal would be mostly fats, high quality fats, right? So this is going to be something that's very low in the glycemic index. I mean, the foods typically are not going to be more than like a 30 on the glycemic index, right? And that would be ideal for your last meal. So we're talking avocado, sunflower seed kernels, pumpkin seed kernels, pistachios, lentils, and a ton of leafy greens with diced bell pepper, diced leeks or onions or things like that. Nutritional yeast, coriander, cumin, cayenne pepper, peppercorns, curry powder, turmeric, things like that. You can really well season the salad, right? So one thing I'm a very big fan of is you can even mix greens. So you can mix kale. So you do pulled kale, meaning you pull the leaves off the kale and you don't eat the stem. And then do chopped bok choy, baby spinach. You can mix them greens up in there, right? You can have sliced cucumber in there as well with all the seeds, and you mix it up. You get this big salad, and then you add avocado to it, which makes it very satiating. And then you can get like red lentils. You can boil those up. You put it in a blender with all the seasonings and whatnot, and then use that to create like a sauce, like a lentil sauce, right? And that is going to be a high protein meal, a high fiber meal, and it's going to be where you're getting the bulk of your fats from in your day. Generally speaking, you should have no more than a gram of protein, a gram of fat per kilogram of lean mass, right? Generally speaking. However, the more raw your diet is, the less of a significance this becomes. So pretty much, let's say you have that third meal and you have it like around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and then you're done eating at like 4 o'clock. And then you go to bed at 9. This is a good intermittent fasting strategy. So if you started at like, let's say 6 a.m. eating, or not that early. Let's say you started at like 7, or you started eating at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. and then you finish by like 2 or 3 or 4. So you get a concentrated eating window where any blood sugar spikes you get would be controlled in that one window, right? And then pretty much after your last meal, your blood sugar will slope off as the day goes on. Now, what would control your blood sugar even better is if you have like ginger tea with your last meal. So for example, I have ginger tea with me right now, right? So you do 2 grams of ginger tea with a pinch of cayenne pepper, and you drink that with your last meal, right? And that will help to improve insulin sensitivity throughout the day. And then if you wanted to compound that even more, an hour before bed, you supplement with with drinking magnesium glycinate and supplementing with like 30 milligrams of zinc, and then you go to bed. Right. So that would be like a day of eating if you wanted to like reverse diabetes, for example. Right. And that's one option. There's other ways to do it. There's not necessarily one approach, but that's just one of the ones that tends to work the best. Right. Let me catch up with y'all in the comments. Ooh, this is spicy. That cayenne pepper, man, it makes it warm. By the way, cayenne pepper is your friend, right? It's one of those things. Pepper has been clinically proven to help reduce body fat. And what about taking berberine before we consume this as well? Berberine is actually a big deal for. I've been doing a little bit of research on berberine. I've always known that it was very good for diabetics, but you know, getting into it a little bit more, it is one of those things that's also clinically proven to help improve insulin sensitivity and reverse diabetes. So you definitely can supplement with berberine as well, and that's a good option. Moringa powder is another one. Cinnamon, ginger, turmeric. These things all collectively help towards this goal. Let me catch up with y'all here. Mel, thank you for the heart me. Appreciate you. Biomes, just read about this term for my skincare. Ah. My boo-boo Jaquinices. Good to see you in here, boo-boo. Let's see. Can you pin that recipe? I'll put it in the email. I'll send it out to the newsletter. You know what I'll do? I'll do a video with the salad, and I'll talk about how I make it. Do I drink alcohol? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Gigi, thank you for the big love. And the 4 mini speakers. Appreciate you coming through on the stream with the love. I am Mrs. Wilson. Thank you for the 20 roses. Much appreciated. Y'all are coming through with the love tonight. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Gigi, thank you for the 3 weights. I am Hearts. Thank you for the hat and mustache. Not for you. Thank you for the roses. Appreciate you. What's good for lung inflammation? Cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper in general, but cayenne pepper is good for lung inflammation. It's good for asthma. It's good for increasing oxygenation of the lungs as well. You juice ginger and turmeric. I personally don't. I'm more inclined to put it in teas in a powdered form. So yeah, I just gave y'all the what to eat in a day playbook for diabetes. Remsen, I remember you told us eating watermelon seeds. Many benefits. One, it helps with blood sugar. I don't think I've ever talked about eating watermelon seeds. I know pumpkin seed kernels help with that. Sunflower seed kernels, chia seeds help with that. Hemp seeds, and flax seeds. I don't know if I said pumpkins. I don't know if I said watermelon seeds though. What about people with thyroid disease, like hypothyroidism? Are peppers still okay? Yes. I could talk a little bit about that as well. May the good Lord continue to bless you for your kindness to us all. That's a big deal. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. I appreciate your information, sir. I appreciate you tuning in, showing some love on the stream. What form of zinc? I'm more partial to zinc picolinate. Another good option, I think, is zinc sulfate. I used to use so much cayenne. Yeah, you don't need the OD on it. You don't need to do that. Don't do that. Let's see. Yeah, I answered the berberine thing. Okay. Let me scroll up a little bit. Make sure I catch up with everybody in here. Let's see. Good evening. I need to lose weight and lower cholesterol. Well, the strategy that I just gave will definitely work with that. Richard Dooley, click the link on Remsen's bio and book a call. True. Yeah, if y'all need to get on a plan, y'all got some chronic illnesses to reverse. Chronic illness reversal is my wheelhouse. That is my #1 mission. So if you need help with reversing chronic illness, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, kidney disease, fatty liver, hypothyroidism, all that stuff, autoimmune disease, food allergies, that's my wheelhouse. All right, so I think I'm caught up. So let me move on. Buford too. I'm going to talk. Matter of fact, I'm going to talk a little bit about hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about that. What about Crohn's? I can get in a little bit for that too. But let me get into Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism. Can I join the mailing list? How? Oh, if you want to join my newsletter, you can go to go to my profile. You can tap right up in here. You go to my profile and you hit the link in my bio, and there's an option to join the newsletter. By the way, folks, double tap the screen to like the stream. All right. So the next thing I'm going to get into here is, what if you got hypothyroidism? Hypothyroidism is largely about stress management, all right? As far as the dietary recommendations are concerned, if you have Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, Graves' disease, things like that, immediately cut dairy out of your diet. No, dairy's completely off limits. You shouldn't be eating animal products at all. Meat, whether it be fish, chicken, pork, beef, whatever. But dairy, absolutely not, right? You can cut that stuff out. Now, you have hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism, and then it manifests from different things. For example, Hashimoto's is a bit different. Hashimoto's is essentially where you have an overproduction of antibodies that can disrupt and or damage your thyroid. Now, hypothyroidism is not all caused by the same thing. It doesn't really work the same in each case. So you may not have that overproduction of antibodies. What you may have is fatty liver, right? So, and I've explained this before, but essentially what happens is, if your cortisol levels are chronically elevated, cortisol is a stress hormone, right, that is released from your adrenal glands. Your cortisol level is going to be the highest first thing in the morning. But cortisol, elevated cortisol, is supposed to be a very acute and temporary thing. But if you sustain chronically elevated stress levels for a prolonged period of time, your cortisol levels will also be perpetually elevated. When your cortisol levels are perpetually elevated, your body has to respond to that and figure out a way to bring that cortisol down. One thing your body will do is increase estrogen production, right? Release more estrogen. So estrogen also works as a stress hormone, right? And stress and estrogen will rise and cause cortisol levels to come down. When you have excess estrogen levels, however, that then contributes to producing thyroid binding globulin in the liver. And that can inhibit T4 and T3 conversion. The reason why this is a problem is because when you have low T4, your pituitary gland responds with releasing more thyroid stimulating hormone. So that thyroid stimulating hormone is supposed to influence your thyroid to produce more T4. And then most of that T4 or most T3 is produced from the liver, where that T4 or a portion of it is converted into T3. And that T3 is used in order to convert glucose into energy, right, in the form of adenosine triphosphate, okay, or ATP for short. Now, if the T4 is being bound up by that thyroxine binding globulin, essentially what happens is your pituitary gland will release more TSH in order to tell your thyroid to kick out more T4. That T4 then perpetually is getting bound up, which makes you appear as though you have low T4. So when you look at your blood tests, and if you've looked at your blood tests as a person who has hypothyroidism, your TSH will be really high and your T4 will be low. That's why, right? The issue, though, is excess stress, which cascades into excess estrogen, which then causes that issue. Now, that issue can also be caused if your T3 is low. And if T3 is low, then that's an indication of fatty liver. A lot of people who have hypothyroidism have some sort of degree of fatty liver, right? Whether it be, non-alcoholic fatty liver or otherwise. This is overstorage and overaccumulation of fat inside the liver, which inhibits the conversion of T3, right? As a result, you can feel tired and chronically fatigued all the time, right? One of the best ways to do that is have a carb-dominant diet, but especially, in particular, a raw vegan diet, right? So eating a mostly raw diet with some cooked foods here and there, right, tend to be the way to fix that problem. But you can have more dietary fat as long as that dietary fat comes in specific proportions. So you don't necessarily need to have your dietary fat intake be around 10 to 15%. It could be around 20 to 25% max if your fat sources come from raw foods. So if your fat sources come from nuts and seeds and avocados specifically, that could be very advantageous. If you have hypothyroidism, right? One of my biggest things I tell people to do is supplement with B complex. So you should have like some form of, like, let's say liquid B complex, where it's B1 through 9 and B12, right? Because when you supplement with those B vitamins are going to help improve the conversion of glucose into usable energy. So this levels out and balances out your estrogen. When you increase your B vitamin profile in your body, that brings down oxidative stress, thus lowering cortisol to a manageable level. Hashimoto's is a bit different. Hashimoto's is more of an autoimmune disorder. It's that overproduction of antibodies that can then behave in a hostile way towards your various organs and tissues around your body, in this case, your thyroid. So the most important thing then becomes stress management over everything else. So magnesium, potassium, B vitamins, vitamin C, glycine, right? These things become some of the major components as far as supplementation goes and diet goes to reversing Hashimoto's, because Hashimoto's isn't necessarily permanent. No autoimmune disease is really permanent. You can have an autoimmune disease, but it can be completely dormant to the point where you're completely asymptomatic. And you can do this primarily through diet and lifestyle. So let's say if you have hypothyroidism, let's say you have Hashimoto's, you got hypothyroidism, you have hyperthyroidism, because the solution is almost identical between all of them, right? An overproduction of a hormone or the underproduction of a hormone usually are solved by the same thing, right? Because your body is always trying to, if it's too high, to bring it down. If it's too low, to bring it up. That's what your body's always trying to do. If you give your body the right vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, your body will adjust it to a reasonable level on its own. Right? It goes on autopilot. Right? You can't really naturally take one hormone and toggle it separately from all your other hormones. It doesn't work like that. It's not possible. All of your hormones move in correlation to each other, right? So, if you've got Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, you wake up first thing in the morning, one of the best things that you can do is herbal tea. Let's say ashwagandha tea. Ashwagandha is very good if you've got Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, right? So you can get ashwagandha in a powder form, okay? And you can do 1 gram of ashwagandha powder in 8 ounces of hot water and drink that down first thing in the morning, right? Ashwagandha is an adaptogen, meaning if your cortisol levels are too high, it brings it down. Cortisol levels too low, it brings it up, right? It gets it to a right balance. Ashwagandha is a stress relief. It's a stress relief herb, so to speak, right? This is also very good to use if you've got anxiety and depression. You swing back and forth between the two. Some people have negative reactions to it, right? It's not very common, but some people do, right? So I got to put that out there as somewhat of a disclaimer on that. There is that risk of like, you take it and then like you're like, I don't like how it makes me feel. So the second option would be chai tea, right? Chai is a mix of cinnamon, coriander, nutmeg, pepper, things like that. It's a mix of different seasonings, right? So I like to get chai in a powdered form, and then I put that, like a gram of that, in 8 ounces of hot water and drink that. And you start your morning with that. Or you can start your morning with moringa, and you could do a gram or two of moringa powder in 8 ounces of tea. The common theme with me particularly is when you wake up first thing in the morning and you get hydrated with those herbal teas, right? And then if you're trying to lose weight, you have hypothyroidism, adding a pinch of cayenne pepper is a nice little bonus. After that, juicing. Juicing can be very beneficial for people with hypothyroidism. So, for example, your juice should be 1 sweet thing with 2 bitter things. So, for example, you can do grapefruit with cucumber and cabbage. Grapefruit with cucumber and celery, right, for example. Beets, cucumber, carrot, apple. And you do a juice like that first thing in the morning. Right, and that also helps to drive down stress. And you're front-loading your simple sugars earlier in the day because that's when your metabolism deals with that stuff the best. Generally speaking, you want your blood sugar to trend downward throughout the day. Right? Your metabolism is going to be the most efficient earlier in the day as opposed to later. All right? So you have that juice, and then you can go for a walk for 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour or so. That's very important. That exercise is very important for somebody with Hashimoto's. If you've got Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, it's going to be very difficult to lose weight without putting in the work. You don't have to do really hard workouts. You just have to be very consistent with the effort you're putting in, right? So meaning, if you commit to walking or to doing, let's say, 6,000, 9,000, or 10,000 steps, do it daily. And ideally, try to do it at the same time every day, 7 days a week, or at least 6 days a week. The walking is one of the most beneficial things you could do for weight loss. If anybody asks me, hey, what's the best type of exercise I can do for weight loss, for burning fat, my answer is going to be walking is going to be the best thing you can do, because it's the most sustainable. You can do resistance training and build muscle, but the thing is you can't really do it 7 days a week. You'll burn yourself out, right? Walking is low effort but high reward. It's one of the best things that you can do to burn fat. It's low effort, it's easy on your joints, or the easiest thing you can do on your joints, and it's sustainable. You can do it 7 days a week. You can even start with 5,000 steps in the morning and then work your way up to 6,500, 7,000, 7,500, 8,000, etc. You can work your way up as you get more stamina, right? So you can ramp up the effort week by week. You come back from your workout, then you can do, let's say, overnight oats. So overnight oats, what do I mean by that? You get a blender, you put 8 ounces of plant-based milk, you put 4 tablespoons of flaxseed meal, milled flax seeds, or milled flax seeds. You put 4 tablespoons of that in there. You put, let's say, a tablespoon of almond butter or PB Fit, which is like powdered peanuts. You put naked pea protein in there, or like pea protein isolate. That's my preferred one that I use. You put that in there. And then you can put cacao powder in there. You put a teaspoon of cinnamon in there. So there's going to be 4 grams of cinnamon in 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Ideally, it would be Ceylon cinnamon. You put that in there. And then you add water, 6 to 8 ounces of water or so, right? Depends on how much you're making and how thick you want it to be. You blend it up. And you put it in a container, right? And then you take like a half a cup or a whole cup, however much you want to use, of rolled organic oats, right? So organic rolled oats, and you put that on top, and you mix the oats into the smoothie mix that you just made. And you put a lid on it, you leave it in the fridge overnight, right? Oh, and by the way, add sea salt to it too, because sea salt, or salt in general, lowers cortisol. Well, it lowers stress. It doesn't really lower cortisol, I would say. That's not really what it does. It lowers your stress, and when you lower your stress, your cortisol levels come down. If your cortisol is already low, it's not going to lower your cortisol even more, right? Because you can't really use food to lower your cortisol too low. It's not really how that works. So you put that teaspoon of sea salt in there, and then if you want it you want to add a little sweetness to it, you can add a tablespoon of coconut sugar or monk fruit or something like that, right? So you can add that in there, mix it in, you leave it in overnight, and then when you take it out the next day, it'll be kind of like this soft oat porridge. It's got a nice soft texture, but it's also, you can chew it, and it's very filling because it's very high in fiber with the flax seeds and the oats and everything. It's a very high fiber meal, a lot of magnesium, copper, iron, potassium, good bit of chromium, boron, things like that. Also rich in B vitamins, by the way, right? Whole grains are very B vitamin rich, right? So you get a full mineral profile through all that stuff. Zinc, everything right in there. You also get selenium, right, in there from the oats as well as the flax seeds. So you get all that in there. And that's a very filling meal. And if you want, you can also add fruit on top of it, right, which is a good thing to do as well and make it a really hearty meal. So you can add strawberries on top of it, blueberries, you can add goji berries to it, whatever kind of berries to it. You can add sliced banana to it. You can add, if you really want to be funky with it, you can add dates to it. You can add kiwis, things like that. Add different fruits to it. And then basically have that as your second meal. Then after that, your final meal would probably be like a fruit salad. So it could be apples, grapes, or pears, grapes, with a bunch of leafy greens and pumpkin seed kernels. Right? So you can have a fruit salad like that. Right? And that could be your last meal for the day right there. So 3 meals right there again. If you wanted to have a more aggressive approach to weight loss, you can leave off the fruit salad and end your day with that second meal. And have a 4-hour eating window. Which means that if you do that on a daily basis, you'd have a 20-hour fast. Okay? And then you can do that for 6 to 8 weeks with that 20-hour fast. And so that's more of like a steep form of intermittent fasting. And fasting is very easy for people with hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's to do. Right? It's easier in my experience, from what I've noticed, it's easier for people with Hashimoto's to fast. It's easier for people with hypothyroidism to fast. When people have a hyperthyroid, now that's more difficult for them to fast. I wouldn't recommend that kind of fasting for somebody with a hyperthyroid, right? If you've got a hyperthyroid, you're probably going to be doing a minimum of 3 meals and a maximum of 5 meals. The sweet spot would be like 4, right? You don't also have to do the apples and the grapes. You could do kiwis and strawberries. You could do avocado, nuts, and seeds with a ton of leafy greens. You could also do that. You could do sweet potato. So you can do like sweet potato chunks in a salad with black beans. So it could be sweet potato, black beans, sunflower seed kernels, diced onion, bell pepper, that kind of thing, and make that into a salad and have that. And then you can take like chickpeas and you can make like a bean dip out of chickpeas or black beans. All you do is you take the beans and you put a little bit of water, seasonings, and you can add sea salt, and you can add, let's say, Italian seasoning, tomato sauce, whatever kind of seasonings you want to do, garlic powder or whatever the case is, right? To make like whatever kind of dip, whatever kind of flavored dip you want to make. And you can have that over the salad as a dressing, right? If you wanted to add tahini to it, you could do that. Whatever kind of taste you want, whatever your favorite tastes are. If you wanted like Indian taste, right? You can do like a masala. If you wanted to do Italian seasoning kind of deal, you can do Italian seasonings, basil and onion, garlic, that kind of thing. You can make it taste like that. If you wanted to have more of like a Thai kind of peanut sauce thing, you could do that. So basically, it'll take on the taste. So you could do it that way and just pour the bean sauce or gravy over the salad, and mix it in with the sweet potato. So you can cut the sweet potato up in like chunks. And then a good alternative to sweet potato is butternut squash. So you can do baked butternut squash, and then you just cube or do butternut squash chunks, and then scatter that and mix that in with the salad, right? So those are 2 options there you can use. And then you have your herbal tea with that last meal. So the tea with the first meal, tea with the last meal, right? And that would be your full day of eating right there. All right, let me catch up with y'all here because I said a lot. Is keto diet better than a deficit? No, I wouldn't say so. I'm not a big advocate for a keto diet because I don't think there's a whole lot of benefit to cutting carbs out of your diet. So we don't have to focus so much on the protein for weight loss. No, actually, having too much protein in your diet can prevent you from losing weight. The only way that would be different is, let's say you're doing like every day you just drink like 2 Ensures. In that case, that's not high protein because you're only drinking 2 Ensures for the whole day. You'll lose a lot of weight doing that, but you probably feel like crap doing that. You'll mess up your metabolism doing that. You don't really have to focus on maximizing protein in order to lose weight because if the primary goal is losing weight, you don't really need protein for that, right? Weight loss, the most important factors for weight loss is going to be adequate thermogenesis, a well-functioning nervous system. And that requires the mineralization. So mineral balance becomes the most important thing. So maximizing, for example, potassium and magnesium, right? Maximizing zinc, chromium, right? Iron and copper, those things matter more so. So that iron and copper together, that's going to increase blood oxygen, red blood cell production. The zinc and magnesium is going to help with stress reduction and glucose metabolism, right? Carbohydrate metabolism, right? Selenium is very important for hormone balance. Boron is important for hormone balance, right? As well as chromium is important for hormone balance. Manganese is important for your nervous system and connective tissue, right? So these minerals work together in order to protect and maintain your DNA, keep up your metabolism to have an adequate amount of thermogenesis to actually tap into fat to use for energy. Because the only way you burn fat is through thermogenesis, because your fat cells will then start to deploy fat through thermogenesis, right? So in order to maintain a certain temperature or thermogenic activity in your body leverages fat cells to do that. But fat cells require a lot of oxygen, which is why the copper and the iron are so important, right? Because if you have low iron, low ferritin, you have low red blood cell count, right? Low hemoglobin, and guess what? It's going to be very difficult to have an adequate amount of thermogenesis. When I say thermogenesis, I mean heat energy, right? And then also you're going to be incredibly stressed, and you're going to have sleep apnea off the chain if you got low oxygen. So if you have a low O2, low CO2, because you also need carbon dioxide as well as oxygen in the right proportions, right? Because it's very difficult to absorb it's very difficult to absorb oxygen if you've got low carbon dioxide. One pushes the other, right? So oxygen in forces carbon dioxide out, right? But if you don't have good carbon dioxide clearance because you have a poor balance of carbon dioxide, well, then you can't really absorb the oxygen in, right? So you can't have a gap that causes the oxygen system to stall out, right? They have to push up against each other. There has to be friction, right? So it works like a vacuum, right? So when you think about like oxygen absorption or blood flow, think about it as a vacuum. Your blood flow is being pushed and pulled through your arteries, through your vascular system. Oxygen is being pushed and pulled through your pulmonary system, right? Through your lungs and everything. So it's a push and pull that happens. It's a loop, right? And so you need to alkalize your body in order to do that. In order to alkalize your body, you need a good mineral profile. So things like pumpkin seed kernels, peanuts, cashews, almonds, chia seeds, leafy greens, and a variety of leafy greens. Bok choy, kale, spring mix, watercress, baby spinach, romaine lettuce, baby butter lettuce, all that type of stuff. Onions, bell peppers, mushrooms, Brazil nuts, right? Those rolled oats. Papaya, mangoes, watermelon, cantaloupe, beets, all of these things are a means to mineralize your body, right? And that's what's going to really maximize fat loss, okay? So managing your blood sugar as well is also a big part of that, but you get better at managing your blood sugar when you more adequately mineralize your body. So we don't have to focus so much on the okay, yeah, I read that. Let me catch up with y'all in the comments here. How do you acquire so much knowledge? Years of diligent studying. So one habit that is probably like my best habit ever is I dedicate 20 to 30 minutes a day minimum to researching and studying things. Anything, doesn't matter what it is. But particularly I studied nutrition a lot. Specifically like biochemistry, human physiology, I'll look up foods, nutrient profiles, like what foods do you get most of this nutrient in? Where do these acids come from? You know, I'll read like, you know, Scientific Journal, Scientific American, NIH, etc. And so just doing that every day, researching every day, has helped me, because a lot of the stuff that I learn on a daily basis, I have not found in nutritionist curriculums, right? At least none of the ones that I've been through, right? A lot of this stuff, you do need to engage in independent research in order to learn a lot of this stuff, right? Let's see. I started fasting and now I'm addicted to it. I feel so good. So when I do it, well, there you go. Yeah, fasting can be great if you're starting from the right place. So let's see. Is it normal to be fatigued when you start on the vegan journey? If you're more fatigued switching to a plant-based diet, there more than likely are holes in your diet, right? So there's some you could have no. You probably need to do a bit of restructuring to your diet, right? There's probably some things that you're not getting, things you're lacking. It's not really very well balanced, right? So you may be under eating, you may be eating too much of some things and not enough of others, that kind of thing. One of the biggest things that I notice in people who switch to a plant-based diet is under eating. So like, they'll just be eating salads all day, and I don't recommend people do that. You can have one good salad per day, and that's enough. You don't need to do multiple salads a day, right? It's not just like a salad diet where you're just eating leaves all day, right? So yeah, there could be some holes there. It could be under eating and lacking certain nutrients and things like that, right? Let's see. I ate pizza and the quiet came instantly. I ate pizza and the quiet came instantly. I don't know what that means. What do you eat when you're on the go? One thing I kind of want to start doing this summer is literally eating on the go. Fruit is very easy to eat on the go. So like bananas, tangerines, apples, grapes, things like, you could really eat stuff like that on the go. Nuts. So like, let's say if I'm on the road, I'm out. 2 cups of nuts is like 1,200 calories, around 1,400 at the most. Let's say 6 bananas, that's like roughly 700 to 800 calories. Or the caloric value of it, right, I should say. 4 kiwis is like 400 calories, or the caloric value of 4 kiwis is 400. So that type of thing. So you can get like a whole day of eating really on the go with just eating like those, you know, nuts, seeds, fruits, that kind of thing. And then pack like your leafy greens or something like that and just shove it in your mouth on the go if you want, right? You could do that as well. 2 cups of nuts is going to be around 40 to 50 grams of protein. That's 6 bananas I mentioned. That's going to be like around 7 to 8 grams of protein. The 4 kiwis, that's going to be like 4 to 5 grams of protein. So it's pretty easy to get your protein, really. And then if you pack 4 cups of leafy greens, that's 4 cups of leafy greens. That's like another, 6 or 7 grams, right? For people who ask about protein, like, oh, where do you get your protein from on a raw vegan diet? Well, there you go, right? So you can hit like your full, and I would imagine you're probably not going to be out all day long, but like, let's say if I was going on like an 8 or 10 hour hike, I was hiking, right, through like mountains and stuff like that. In my bag, that's what I would have in my bag. That's the kind of food I would have in my bag. So that's what I would eat on the go. I thought I had to avoid raw spinach and cruciferous veggies with hypothyroidism. Not at all. Why would you think that? Who told you that? Are you losing more weight? Am I losing more weight? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I'm probably losing more weight incidentally. I don't know, maybe it's showing up in my face. Let's see. I ate natural for 5 days, and suddenly my thoughts became so fast and loud. I tried breath work. I ate naturally for 5 days. What do you mean, eat naturally? What does that mean? Oh, okay. How do you acquire so much knowledge? Okay, I answered that. What is good for high blood pressure? Let's get into blood pressure. Where did you study all this stuff? Honestly, it's a combination of reading studies, seminars. I mean, honestly, most of it is independent studies. So what I do, I've spent like years researching like clinical data, peer-reviewed studies, things like that, population studies, epidemiological studies, and looking up, the different data to see like chronic illnesses. So, for example, I would spend maybe like a week on some kind of complex issue, like to say autoimmune disease or diabetes or anything like that, some kind of chronic illness, fibroids or whatever, right? And just reading all the data, trying to find all the data related to these things. When it comes to reversing chronic illness and things like that, there's not a whole institutional education doesn't really teach you these things. So like if you've ever been to your doctor and your doctor refers you to like a nutritionist on staff at the hospital, they don't know a lot of the stuff I'm talking about. And the reason why they don't know is because of conventional education doesn't teach you these things. I assume that the reason why conventional education doesn't teach you these things is because it's very specific. It's a specialty thing. And so the way that our education system is set up, let's say if you wanted to reverse chronic illness, you would have to major in that chronic illness. But conventional education, you don't, like you can't go to college and study diabetes. Doesn't work that way. What you can do is study specific organs. Like you can be a cardiologist, an endocrinologist, a gastroenterologist, a urologist, right? But there's not like coursework to take on a specific chronic illness like Hashimoto's or something like that, or type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes. Doesn't really work that way, right? It's not like a curriculum for that, right? So you need a lot of independent studies for that. When you go through the conventional path of getting, certified and stuff in nutrition, they teach you the basics: carbs, fats, proteins, allergies, substitutes, general calorie and macro calculations, things that interfere with medications, things like that. But they teach it to you in a way where it's meant to be integrated with like your doctor's office, right? Or medical prescriptions, things like that. But it's very broad and it's very general, right? So like, let's say if you go to the hospital, you got kidney disease and your doctor sends you to a nutritionist for kidney disease, they'll give you general recommendations. Try not to eat too many bananas. Don't overdo it on the potassium. Eat beans very sparingly. Saltine crackers are fine. That kind of thing. So they'll give you like these very general, broad recommendations, but they don't really write diet plans because you don't really learn that. If you want to learn that stuff, you have to do independent research. Like if I say 4 grams of carbs per kilogram of lean mass, 1 gram of fat per kilogram of lean mass, 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of lean mass, depending on training frequency and training age, that's a very specific thing. And in order to learn how to calculate macros in that way, you actually have to study sports nutrition, which ties into my background in personal training, strength and conditioning, performance enhancement, because that's baked into the curriculum of those things. Right? So you would have to go to like National Academy of Sports Medicine and then get certified in sports nutrition. And the course is like, it's like in between $500 and $700 or something like that. I don't know how much. I remember how much it was before back then for me. I don't know how much it is now. But that's how you learn that stuff, right? The sports nutrition aspect. And so I use that when I write diet plans. So I'm like, what's your height, weight, and age? What's your body fat percentage? And I do the calculations that way. So that's the overall framework for where I start. And then I say, okay, mineral profile. And so then I break foods down into category. Because you can't just make a diet plan according to macros and calories. You also have to do it from food category. Nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables. And then if it's a raw vegan diet, it's going to be fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, right? Those are going to be your dominant food categories. And the reason why those are your dominant food categories is because those are the categories that contain the most of certain nutrients. So fruits, vegetables, they contain the most water-soluble nutrients. They contain the most, let's say, vitamin C and B vitamins and potassium, things like that, right? Water and fiber. Those are the hydrating foods, the foods where you're going to get most of your glucose and your carbohydrates from. Nuts and seeds are going to be very beneficial for hormonal balance. Zinc, magnesium, selenium, iron, copper, manganese, boron, chromium, that type of thing, right? And then, of course, if you have a tree nut allergy, then you avoid the tree nuts and you put in legumes. Black beans, red kidney beans, chickpeas, lentils, that kind of thing. But you can still keep in seeds like chia seeds, pumpkin seed kernels, sunflower seed kernels, that type of thing. I have a special place for pumpkin seed kernels, sunflower seed kernels, chia seeds, and flax seeds in particular because those are good sources of vitamin E, along with avocados and kiwis, right? And vitamin E acts like an antioxidant, which is very good for fortifying your immune system and preserving the quality of your skin as well, right? Of your tissue in general. So if you want to maintain soft, smooth arteries, potassium, vitamin E, vitamin D, these things become essential, right? And then for collagen production, so you want to have youthful skin, maximizing sleep quality, lowering stress, flooding your body with vitamin C becomes extremely important, hence all the fruit. Because the fruit is going to be the most abundant source of the vitamin C. The reason why it's important too is because when you're getting a lot of vitamin C, you also want to get a lot of water with it, right? Huh? Oh. So basically, if you're dehydrated and getting a lot of vitamin C, that can cause weird things, heart palpitations, diarrhea, things like this, right? So your water has to be proportionate for vitamin C because water is the transport mechanism specifically for vitamin C. Vitamin C is explicitly water soluble, explicitly water based, right? B vitamins as well, right? So B vitamins, you're going to need to be adequately hydrated. If you are dehydrated, you start having nervous system problems when you're chronically dehydrated. So if you're chronically dehydrated, that'll raise your blood pressure. And a part of the reason why it will raise your blood pressure is dysfunction of the nervous system, which causes vascular constriction and poor communication between your motor neurons and things like that. Which affects your brain chemistry and all of that, right? And so you get high blood pressure. And somebody asked me, what do you do for high blood pressure? One of the first things that you want to think about is hydrating your body. Okay, making sure you're not dehydrated. A great way to prevent dehydration is increasing your fruit and vegetable intake, leafy greens specifically. All right. when going into a fruit juice diet, how do you start a fruit juice diet? I'm not a big advocate of a fruit juice diet. You can juice. I wouldn't recommend somebody just drinking juice all day, right? Just because, I mean, there's a lot of things that you'd be missing in your diet. Fiber, for one, which is important for feeding your gut microbiome and maintaining your digestive tract, as well as pushing toxins out of your colon. And the fiber expands in your digestive tract and binds to toxins, heavy metals, glyphosate, you name it, right? All this type of stuff, excess estrogen, etc. The fiber binds this stuff up and pulls it out of your digestive tract through your fecal matter. Soluble fiber, I just described largely what insoluble fiber does. Soluble fiber forms a gelatinous substance inside your stomach and coats your stomach lining, which protects your stomach lining, which is extremely important for people with ulcers, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, things like that, diverticulitis, right? All of those type of leaky gut issues, right? So, yeah, I know I said a lot just now. Folks, double tap the screen to like the stream. Let's see. You mentioned fibroids. What foods and herbs can you eat to help shrink uterine fibroids? So when you want to shrink fibroids, the best thing you can do is stop feeding them. A raw vegan diet is extremely beneficial for that because a raw vegan diet has an abundance of fiber. It has more. So cooked foods tend to have less fiber than raw foods. Raw foods are way more fibrous and cruciferous, and that's very important because that fiber binds to excess estrogen. And so that excess estrogen, if it's bound up and pulled out of your body through your fecal matter, that means that it can't bind to your cell receptors, it can't feed fibroids and grow them. Also, that fiber helps to regulate your blood sugar, which means that you're not gonna get these high levels of blood sugar that then feed fibroids, right? So that's another thing. Also, a raw vegan or high raw vegan diet is very good at regulating your hormones. Okay, so bringing your estrogen and progesterone in the adequate balance, and once that happens, there's not all of these excess hormones left over that feed fibroids. Okay. Also, cutting things out of your diet like dairy and excess heme iron are important as well to shrinking fibroids because fibroids feed on excess heme iron. So when you get too much heme iron and you also get too much copper, that feeds fibroids. Fibroids, man, fibroids grow hair, teeth, muscle tissue, veins, arteries. Fibroids damn near grow like a baby, right? Fibroids are like a weird kind of mutated fetus. And an interesting thing, too, is that fibroids, man, they grow like bone tissue and all types of stuff because they absorb all the calcium, everything. And they basically, and you can actually, there's like images of like how fibroids look, and it'll give you nightmares. It looks crazy. The teeth in them and stuff like that is crazy. And they grow huge, right? You can have a fibroid the size of like a baseball, a cantaloupe, all type of stuff. And so that's why you got to make sure you're not feeding them. And so the foods that cause you to have a very heavy menstrual cycle, that's because you're getting way too much iron, you're getting way too much copper, and your body's trying to get rid of this stuff. All of these excess just hormones and minerals and whatnot built up in your body. Your body, a lot of that stuff gets absorbed and locked up into your uterine lining, and your uterine lining gets all thickened up, right, in your cycle. And then when your cycle comes, it sheds that. And so when you have this extra thick uterine lining, especially if you've been using birth control, right? So birth control pretty much generates like a congestion of estrogen, right? Because that excess, like let's say even if you're using a copper IUD or something like that, you get this binding and congestion of excess estrogen built up. And so when your cycle comes along, your cycle has to break all of this down and purge it out to the point where when your cycle comes, you know, you're walking around and you smell like a bag of pennies and nickels and stuff like that, like a bunch of coins. You get a very metallic smell. It's very painful, cramps and all of this. And you can get some of that uterine lining breakdown, and it can travel up into your body and embed itself into your digestive tract, your stomach, and over time that can develop endometriosis and things like this, right? And so this is why, something like a plant-based diet is so beneficial, especially for a woman's health. Is so that you don't get this congestion and this violent, vicious menstrual cycle, right? So that's kind of like all the reasons and all the things to do to basically get rid of your fibroids. You got to shrink them, and then as you shrink them, they deteriorate and fall apart, and they leave your body through your menstrual cycle or just how any other waste product leaves. I've heard stories where I've had people who I've coached, women who they've seen clumps of the fibroids come out in the toilet. I'm not going to get too graphic, and it is graphic. But for those who like it spicy, they said it looked like a miscarriage, and it horrified them. So just to give you a heads up, you do a high raw vegan diet, and you do it for long enough, you shrink your fibroids. Just keep that in mind. So if you see that, don't freak out. Okay, that's what that is. I figure I would give the warning there. Yeah, this song is a vibe right here. By the way, this song that's playing right now is named after one of my favorite teas. I don't drink that much of it, me personally, but it yields really good results. Hibiscus tea. All right. Folks, double tap the screen to like the stream. I'm drinking it now. Oh, the hibiscus. There you go. What would you eat before and after a HIIT workout? Well, yeah, I explained that earlier. As far as a HIIT workout, it would be a heavier meal afterwards. So a lighter meal before, and then a heavier meal afterwards. So before the workout would probably be, it could be 4 to 6 kiwis. It could be a whole cantaloupe, or like 4 to 6 cups of cantaloupe, or watermelon, or honeydew, or papaya, or a couple mangoes, or something like that. And then afterwards, it would be more like a heavier meal, maybe like a banana pudding with blueberries and like sunflower seed kernels and crushed walnuts. Or the overnight oats that I mentioned earlier in the stream, something like that, right? Afterwards, something that's going to be more filling, more protein rich, that kind of thing. Dedicated for life. Thank you for the heart me. Thank you for the chocolate strawberries. Appreciate you coming through with the love on the stream. Dedicated for life coming through. Good evening. True. Coming through. Hibiscus or green tea? Both. You alternate. You alternate, you know? I make hibiscus tea with decaffeinated green tea and hibiscus flowers. That sounds dope. I like that. It's bitter, but it's good stuff. Loads of good information. Thank you. This stream, okay, I will be putting this stream up for replay. So if you're on the newsletter, you will be receiving this stream replay in your newsletter, all right? In the tribe newsletter. So if you're not on that, definitely go to my profile, hit the link in my bio, and join the newsletter. I'm also going to be having some client testimonials going up on there. So I do interviews with tribe members who I've coached on their experiences and their success on the plan. Some pretty interesting stories. I have them up on my YouTube channel. The last one I just did too was about diabetes reversal, getting off of like 18 different medications, cutting the A1C in half. Improving lung health, getting off an oxygen tank, like crazy stuff. I mean, a real victory story. So definitely check that out as well. Wow, Coach, you're fantastic. So helpful. I appreciate that, Shelly. Appreciate you. Appreciate you always tuning into the stream and showing love, providing that encouragement. This information is great. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Much love to y'all. What is good for POTS? It's not a thing I deal with very well or understand very well. I'd have to do more research in it. The thing that I know about it is that it's a nervous system issue, right? When it comes to nervous system issues, the best thing that you can do is mineralize your body and making sure that you're getting the B vitamins, right? Now, when it comes to, how do you say it? Tachycardia or tachycardia? I'm not sure how to say it. Tachycardia, right? Yeah, okay. Why do I say tachycardia? That's not how you say it. I don't know where I got that from. Tachycardia. It's caused by one or two things or both. A lot of the times it is both. Now, the reason why I'm going into this is because, and I'm not an expert in it, I don't have any experience in reversing that, right? So just leading with that. But what I do know about it is I want you to think about your diet in terms of, is your diet like abundant in vitamin C, B vitamins, magnesium, things like that? Right, so look at your food, your top 5 foods, and then look at the nutrient profile, the mineral profile of those foods. Right, a lot of people that I know of, or a lot of people who I speak to, when I go on calls with them, they talk to me about their chronic conditions and things like that. When they have nervous system issues, a lot of the times it's related to a lack of magnesium. Now, the interesting thing too is like at least 60% of the population is magnesium deficient. Magnesium deficiency is very prominent. Magnesium deficiency can cause you to struggle with weight loss. Magnesium deficiency can cause you to have neuropathy. Magnesium deficiency can cause neurodegenerative disorders, Alzheimer's, increases your risk of stroke, high blood pressure, tachycardia, what's that called? Heart palpitations, right? This type of thing. Also, a lack of B1, B3, B6, and B9. Pretty much all the B vitamins, including B12. Right? Not having that full B vitamin profile. Right? It's also a major problem, and that could result in anxiety, chronic anxiety, heart palpitations, that type of thing. Irregular heart rhythm, etc. Now, the interesting thing about POTS is it's also a bone issue, and it's directly correlated to the mineral storage in your bones. If you have a deficiency in blood serum levels of certain minerals, then those minerals will be leached out of your bone in an osteoclast fashion into your bloodstream. And that can weaken your bone marrow and cause nerve issues as well. Aside from the mineral profile of that, what I just explained, then you have your actual posture, okay? Your nervous system requires good spinal alignment. So your spine has an L curve, a C curve, an L curve, right? So like lordotic, kyphotic, lordotic, and kyphotic, actually. So there's 4. So that S1, S2, that's a kyphotic curve. Your spine tucks under your tailbone. Your lumbar spine is a lordotic curve. Your T-spine is a kyphotic curve, meaning it's a flexed curve, right? L-spine is an extended curve. S-spine is a flexed curve. C-spine, cervical spine, is a lordotic curve. It's extended, right? So your spine has like this S-curve. If you have diminished curvature in your spine, that can cause or contribute to POTS. Now, a lot of this is speculation on my part from things that I vaguely recall in my research on issues that stem from poor posture. So I'm not saying this specifically relating to POTS. I'm talking about overall in general in relation to your nervous system. Because your spinal health and your spinal curvature dictates the functionality of your entire nervous system. I've had people where we were able to fix their constipation and anxiety by improving their postural alignment. No joke. I vividly remember this because I was a personal trainer at the time, working with somebody who had really poor posture, and we were working on corrective exercise to improve their posture. Their neck was like this here. Their shoulders were rolled forward. They had a massively embellished kyphotic curve in their spine, in their T-spine. They had very limited curvature in their L-spine. Weak glutes, tight hip flexors, weak hamstrings, knee pain, limited ankle mobility. And they had anxiety, breathing difficulties, sleep apnea, and constipation. Okay, from this posture here. And everything just tucked it all up in here, right? Just pulled to the center line. All up in here, just a tightening to the front here, right? As we strengthen the muscles in their back, we push the chin back, we drop the shoulders, we strengthen the lats, we remove the tension out of the traps here. We teach them how to pick their rib cage up without excessively flexing their lumbar spine. We strengthen their glutes, loosen their hamstrings up. And then what happened is, as their shoulders dropped, the chest came up. They were like 1 inch or 2 taller. And they stopped having a lot of those issues just from fixing their posture. The knee pain went away. They had more ankle mobility. They had less anxiety. They stopped having the heart palpitations, all of that type of stuff, right? Just from corrective exercise and fixing the posture. If you focus on improving your posture and fixing your diet simultaneously, that's your best shot at correcting your issues. Right? Generally speaking. Now, if I'm wrong about that and somebody knows better, I would love to hear their thesis on that. But that's based on what I know and the research that I've done and the experience that I have. All right, let's see here. Need a healing plan? Tap the link in Remsen's bio and set up a consultation. True. Who's the next candidate for chronic illness reversal? Shay! Good to see you in here. Welcome to the stream. Shay, we got to do an interview on all of your success so far because you've been racking up wins. So we gotta pass you the mic, get you on an interview for the success you've been having. You've been straight up killing the game. He goes back to read the comments. True. I'll try another time. What are we trying another time? Heal and get a deal. What's going on, T? Good to see you. Why you ignore me? Plant-based Nicole Richey, what's going on? I'm just seeing you in here. Yeah, I got to scroll up and catch up. Big shout out to you. Big shout out to Nicole Richey. She's got a we do like an Instagram live together a couple times a month, and we basically just sit down and have a big old fruit bowl and do a little Q&A and talk about stuff and diet and things like that. Just a pretty chill stream that we do together on Instagram. Yeah, she's on Instagram, she's on TikTok, and she's on YouTube. Plant-based Nicole Richey. So definitely go check her out. She's got good energy. She's a very entertaining person. Very charismatic, right? So definitely. And she puts up some good recipes and some interesting stuff. So yeah, definitely go check her out. Is herpes curable? I would imagine it is. Do I personally have any experience with reversing herpes? No. I personally don't know a whole lot about reversing herpes. Now, there's a variety of different types of herpes, but I'm not well versed in herpes. So I'm definitely not. My knowledge of how to reverse that is going to be pretty limited. Anything that I say about it is purely speculative because I don't have the expertise to reverse it. When you first began eating raw, did your thoughts race and your thoughts scream loud? Did I? No, I don't think I had that feeling. I think clearer. I had more creative energy. I don't know about loud thoughts necessarily, no. So the loud thoughts thing, that can be a very positive thing or it could be a very negative thing. So it depends on what the thoughts are, and it depends on what you mean by them being loud. So that probably requires a bit more of a deeper conversation there, but it sounds interesting though. I've read that with Hashimoto's disease, I should not have green tea or matcha. I mean, in my experience, those things are not. Well, first of all, matcha is a type of green tea. But yeah, no, those things should be fine. I would imagine the reason why they would say that is because those things have caffeine in it. So they're like, oh, you should stay away from anything that's caffeinated. But green tea and matcha don't have enough caffeine to really have a detrimental effect unless you're very sensitive to caffeine. Right? But in my experience, it hasn't really been an issue for people. If it is an issue for you, like it's too stimulative, you feel like your heart's racing, it's not a good feeling, then, switch to like ginger tea or moringa tea. Or hibiscus, one of those. Dr. Sabi knows how to cure herpes. May he rest in peace. True. The man, the myth, the legend. Dr. Sebi. What do I think about coffee? I mean, coffee's all right. I'm not really a coffee drinker. I don't really put coffee in people's plans. I'm not really like a big coffee advocate. I'm more of a tea guy. I'm more of a tea person. Join us and come through tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern. True. Plant-based Nicole Richey and I will be streaming live tomorrow on Instagram at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. I'm about to say specific time. Pacific time. Just a little while longer. I wanted to be dramatic. Tips on gaining weight as a raw vegan. Eat more. I would say, yeah. Increase food volume. I'll probably say that's your best shot. Increase food volume and hypertrophy training. So high volume resistance training and a 10 to 20% caloric surplus. That's going to be the way forward there. Yeah, somebody popped in. It said eat meat. somebody watching the stream with a meat addiction. Oh yeah. We don't. Lots of posture stuff you mentioned earlier. Yeah, well, yeah. Posture is like my thing. That's going back to my roots. I strained my lower back, and as it healed, seemed to correct my hip rotation, and now everything seems to be corrected itself. That is so interesting. That's amazing. Yo, imagine correcting a hip rotation through an injury. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's amazing. That's like one of those things, where people say, sometimes in life things just work themselves out. True. I like your wig cap. Yo, how would y'all feel if I was to stream with a wig on? Like some long, luxurious wig. You know what I mean? I had like highlights in it. And do all of that. I gotta practice the body language for long hair though, so it could look legit. I see my favorite kind of like people on the internet are like dudes where they do skits as women and they'll wear a wig and they'll have like a full grown beard and whatnot, but like put the wig on and do some skit acting as a woman. I always get a kick out of that because they got the body language and the hand gestures and the gesticulation and the hair and all the body language and whatnot down pat. But they got this they got this clearly very prominent, obvious beard. So it's just really it's really funny. I get a real kick out of that. So there's a couple that I follow that do skits like that. Please don't put a wig on. Wig cap. I'm gonna Google wig cap and see what comes up. Let me Google wig cap. I'm not gonna mess around too much with that here. Y'all, I don't know what a wig cap is. I don't know what that looks like. Oh, that's a wig cap. It's basically a stocking cap. All right. All right. So I think I covered it. I got through a lot tonight, folks. I think I did it. I don't want to go too long because the video is going to take forever to edit and then upload. So we're gonna leave it here tonight, folks. But yeah, folks, thank you for tuning in. Hope all this information was very helpful to you. We covered a lot. I'll be streaming next week, and the newsletter goes out Friday or Saturday, depending on how things shake out. Technically speaking, but yeah. So I want to say I'll be back on next week, Tuesday, Thursday, because that's usually what I've been doing for over a year now, Tuesdays and Thursdays. But any updates that I put up as far as streaming on YouTube and doing that type of thing, I'm gonna start doing that. So when I do my first YouTube stream, I'm going to put that out in the newsletter. It'll be scheduled pretty far in advance to give everybody notice to jump on board there. So that's pretty much it. But last but not least, tune in with the stream of plant-based Nicole Richey and I tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific time. I almost said specific time again. On Instagram. And our handles are the same on TikTok as they are on Instagram. So having said that, I will catch y'all next week.